Good morning, and it's Lilia from Heel Scotland, and today I have with me Wooliam Wallace. Delighted to have you on the podcast. How are you doing?
Good, thank you very much. I'm doing a bit of busking today in town. Thought I'd play some music outside rather than inside, and
Oh,
so yeah.
is it sunny? Is it sunny and with hailstone showers up there? Because that's what it's like here.
It's not very sunny here at the moment, but I've got a nice sheltered area, so all good. But yeah,
And
thanks for having me.
not at all. So listen, you and I really just met last weekend in Skye. You have a very unique and really traditional look, and it was a huge talking point for so many people. And I have to say, particularly the men that were really drawn to your, plaid and the kilt making, and having just come back from India, I was like, oh, this is kind of like a sari, a Scottish sari kind of idea, because you're
Yeah.
taking a large bit of material, obviously not as thin as you would need in a lot thicker than you would need in India. But it was so cool to watch, and the video that I put up of you's got thousands of hits. So there's definitely something very attractive about what you do. But for people that have never met you or don't know what you're doing, what's your website again? I'll just put it on. Scott.
Yeah, it's stoneofscot.land, so Stone of Scotland, but instead of .com, it's .land.
Ah, that's a great name. So first of all, tell me, how did you get into this?
Good question. I think it was a cumulative moment that I think did it for me, and I think that moment was it was during COVID, about 2022 or 2021, I think, where I was in college here in Fort William, actually, studying an outdoor leadership course, and we had to do some kind of a work experience, and I didn't quite fancy going to the average mountain biking shop or something like this. And I thought to myself, I want to do something that's more alongside, more, that just resonates more with me rather than something more mainstream and standard. And so I was watching a YouTube video at the moment, and I said to my girlfriend at the time, I said, wouldn't it be cool if I could do that kind of stuff with that kind of guy for work experience? And the guy I'm talking about is Tom Langhorn. He has his YouTube channel called Fan Dabidozi, and he's a really good friend of mine. Tom, if you're watching this, good to see it. So I was watching one of those videos with a girlfriend, and I said, oh, wouldn't it be awesome to do something like that for work experience? And she said, well, why don't you just send him an email? And I thought to myself, no, he probably gets it all the time. I don't want to bother him, blah, blah, blah. She said, well, Jason, just see what happens. Send him an email. And before I knew it, I was working with him a bit. And then I went traveling through Europe, hitchhiking and camping a lot, and testing out a lot of the plaid, and going in my own kind of shoes as well. And for the people who haven't seen them, I'll just briefly show them off real quick. But here you can see my shoes, and I make them myself. And I haven't really been wearing any other pairs of shoes since I've been making these. And the same kind of goes for the kilt as well. I'm not wearing it right now, but I usually have a plaid with me. It's you'll be hard pressed to find me going camping without the 5-meter blanket with me.
Yeah, because it's so warm.
It can be, yeah, but it's so you can regulate your heat really well with it, and I think it's really, really multifunctional, like a Swiss Army knife of clothing, I feel like. And I think it's something that we could definitely bring back nowadays, especially with the readily availableness of fabric, and also just the readily availableness of people who want to be out in the outdoors and not necessarily spend 500 quid for a waterproof jacket.
Yes, absolutely. Now, interesting you mentioned COVID, because how many businesses like yours have been sparked by that crazy time in our lives, which is really cool, actually, because obviously if you're going to say, well, everything happens for a reason, much as I was furious at what happened, you can now start to see all these seeds that really flourished, during that time, because it is these are the kind of businesses. I mean, it was just so interesting to hear the men talking about. John was just like, I want to learn from him. Froome was like, I want to learn from him. And, we don't get a lot of men coming along as guests. I mean, there's more and more coming, but they're still in the minority. So it's fabulous to have things that actually men are drawn to quite naturally, rather than their wife having to say, "You should do that."
I mean, I think there's loads of men out there who, if left to their devices, they would just have an empty apartment with a mattress and a couple of other odd bits, But I no, it's really nice to get some positive feedback from that as well. And I think I feel very much like a weirdo when me and my pal Tom were doing videos about this stuff. But when I actually get my friends in some of these kilts as well, and now that I've sold a couple as well, and I see some pictures of people in them, I feel less alone in my endeavour here to kind of, how would you say, rewild Scotland with natural fabric and a very different approach and attitude to being in the outdoors. And I think that's a nice thing to bring, especially to Heal Scotland. I think it's like the perfect place for it.
Absolutely.
Perfect crowd.
And because you've got a variety of skills going on there. So do you want to tell people who are coming to the festival and people that are maybe thinking about it, tell us all the different sort of arrows to your bow, if you like?
Yeah. So I'm a bit of a jack of all trades, master of none, better than master of one. And I grew up as a blacksmith. Since the age of 13, I was taken up as an apprentice, and I did that for about 4 years. And I did that in the Netherlands. And then when I came back here, I started working a lot more with wood and leather and fabric, mainly because I didn't have any blacksmithing facilities. And even in the Netherlands, when I started blacksmithing, chances are if you're making something out of metal, especially if it's a sharp tool or some kind of other object, chances are you're going to add wood or leather or some other material to it. So cross-training seemed like a very natural thing to gravitate towards, especially because that puts me as an individual at an advantage, not only as a business, but also just for life skills. Just knowing a couple of things and how to put things together or take things apart. I think when I think back of when I was traveling through Europe, how many people in Eastern Europe, ranging from Poland to Serbia, Bulgaria, so many people there, they're just so much more hands-on. And not only do they have the intuition, but they take the initiative to tackle things head on, rather than worrying about having to work an extra 20 hours in the week or something like this to be able to hire a professional to come do it for you. And I found that was a very different approach to things. So I work mostly with metal. But say again?
Sorry, my daughter's put the coffee grinder on it. Sorry. Can you just say that last bit again?
Aye. So I grew up as a blacksmith, but I mostly work now with fabric and with wood and leather, and also work with bone and some other materials, but it's a bit more rare. And for now, I'm putting the blacksmithing on afterburner, and I'm wanting to get good natural organic equipment made out of wool, ideally, or linen, get that out on the market and see if we can get people back in that again, because there's no reason for us to be wearing all the synthetic stuff, and there's no reason to have the petrochemical industrial factories to make the fiber to begin with, when you have all the wool in the Highlands laying around you, all the sheep, and it's dirt cheap, and people are putting it into the ground and no one's making use of it. I think it's a resource going to waste. So I think it's good to bring it back.
Yeah, and I think for a while wool was, you could hardly give it away. People are using it, in their compost and in their raised beds, etc. But there definitely seems to be a bit of a shift that people are now starting to realise. I mean, how powerful and precious wool actually is. And again, for our climate, everything that we have around us is there in the season at the right time in order, to help us humans. And we've just, we're buying a whole load of stuff from China, and it's just crazy, isn't it, what we're actually doing when we've got such quality round and about us. So where do you get your plaid from?
So the one I got, well, do you mean what do you mean by plaid? Which
Well,
one?
the,
Like,
your 5 meters of material.
okay. So I get it online from a shop that makes it in Britain. I found some sources in Yorkshire and some other places down in England, but I found it's quite difficult to find good wool fabric coming from Scotland or from the Highlands that's not immediately Harris tweed or some other derivative of that, which is just too expensive for the average person.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I'm kind of struggling at the moment to find any good wool mills and wool sources that have the kind of fabric I'm looking for. Pretty heavyweight stuff, tightly woven, and natural colours. It's quite difficult to find. So most of the stuff comes from England at the moment.
Uh-huh. Well, maybe somebody listening will know somebody who's able to provide that. It's nice to
Yeah,
think that you'd be able to get that stuff in Scotland, but we know we don't live in the ideal world. And the reality is, a lot of these really kind of altruistic, natural things are just out. They're so expensive. It pushes it out of people's reach. And really, and
uh,
that's why, we used to run retreats on the nettles and making nettles into cordage and into wool. But, it's a very time consuming and laborious process that if you were actually charging per hour, there's nobody, Harley, apart from Elon Musk, would be able to afford it.
yeah, that's
So it's been able to
yeah, that's
get
true.
it balanced, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right.
However, I
So,
think
carry on.
um, I think there's a bit of a maybe at the same time we just can't we don't have we can't quite fathom how much material used to cost, or how much a lot of things that are modern conveniences, how much they really did cost and still do, and someone's nowadays just not getting paid for them somewhere. um, but I think an intimacy with our environment, an intimacy with the clothing we wear, the food that we eat, the people that we're hanging around with, the work that we're doing, personal and professional. I think that kind of an intimacy, bringing that back to small community level, to engaging with your friends and your local environment in an ecologically sensitive manner. And I think wool fabric is and a 5 meter wool blanket is a perfect how would you say archetype of that, almost, where it's so simple. It does many things quite well. It can't do anything perfectly, but it's very humble. A humble 5 meter blanket can, yeah, it's just so much to it. I can't. Yeah, as you can hear, my words are stopping to come out of my mouth because it's just all in here, and yeah.
Yeah.
But
I know, and I think when you watch, certainly the way Froome was wearing it, the plaid, and how he felt, and as you say, it's just that intimate relationship. And there's something inside. I say this even at when I make a salad up at the farm with all the flowers and the leaves. There's something in the body that lights up when that recognizes this is what I like, and
yeah.
where cost isn't the only issue. But listen, so tell us, what are you going to be providing at the festival? What, because I know you do a foraging side as well, don't you? And that kind of connection to the land. Tell us about the
Yeah,
staff thing.
the staff.
Uh-huh.
So we do part of how would I say this? One of the courses which I do offer is a staff sparring kind of basics course. It's something that a friend of mine, Tom, we've already mentioned, we've been developing together. He's got an online course, actually, if people are interested in that. But if you want an in-person kind of taster of maybe about an hour long, half an hour to an hour long, which would get you the basics in your head of a mixed martial arts, so a staff MMA, stuff coming from the French great stick to Japanese stuff and all over. So mixing that all together in a comprehensive walking stick martial art is it's been one of our ambitions, but we think we've kind of done it. And within an hour, we can really get people so on it solid that they can go away with their family and friends and just practice it for the rest on themselves, which is an amazing thing. So I can bring some staffs if people would be interested in that, and
I
we
think
can
you
do some of
definitely
that.
should do that. I think that would be a really interesting. And hopefully if it's sunny and warm and beautiful, we can be outside. But like I was
That
saying
would,
to you earlier, we've also got the opportunity, the marquee in the village in Tarbert. So, you know, if we did go,
yeah,
you have to in Scotland anywhere, have plan A and plan B.
yes, that's very true. That's very true. Aye,
But I think the kind of physical movement, you know, and also I think again things that appeal to men, which is martial
mhm.
arts and
Aye,
natural products, and you know, and back I suppose looking at our old traditions and what can we bring forward. Why did we stop? Why did we lose so many of our very powerful traditions, and how can we bring them back in a kind of, I suppose, a slightly modern way? Now,
yeah.
so I think that's a great idea if you can bring staff. So I think that'd be an amazing addition to the festival. But also, what about the shoemaking? That seems to be attracting a lot of attention as well.
Yeah, that seems to be one thing. No matter how much I try to disguise myself in normal clothes, I can't usually change my shoes, and so always stand out like sore thumb. Aye,
Uh-huh.
so the shoes is kind of also another kind of almost archetype or symbolic representation of this kind of intimacy with clothes and just your own personal life, really. But where it started from was when I was growing up, I played a lot of video games, and there was a period in my life where I was inside a lot and I wasn't really moving that much. And then after that, when I started to move a lot more and be a lot more physically active, then I started to notice that a lot of my muscles, ligaments, and tendons, and particularly in my feet, were kind of underdeveloped. And so I had been given physiotherapy for this for roughly a decade, and from the age of 12 onwards, I'd say, or 11 even. And none of that really helped because it wasn't really addressing the root cause. It was trying to strengthen muscles or muscle groups or ligaments in certain areas, but it wasn't getting me as an individual to get to really engage with my own body and put in the thought, put in the energy, and put in the love to really to get that mobility and feeling and beingness back into my feet. And so it took me quite a long time to get around to that. And so for a number of years, I was just hobbling about, feeling like a pirate on stumps, really, for an awful long time. And even when I'd go to the hills, go for a walk, or if I'd be with college going out on a hill day, and we'd be out for 9 hours or 11 hours on a hill day, I'd come back, and for about 4 or 5 days afterwards, my knees and my feet would just be absolutely shattered, and to the point where I remember one Christmas, I was on the phone with one of my lecturers, who was also a good friend of mine, and I was talking with her about this, and I was saying, I don't know, Lara, I think I might have to quit this course. I don't know if I can actually continue with this because my legs just can't do it. So I was bawling my eyes out and thinking to myself, what can I do about this? And so I had heard about people talking about barefoot shoes and stuff like this, and I had given it a try before. I had bought a pair of barefoot shoes years ago, but I didn't make any changes to my own gait or to my own way of walking. I just bought the shoes thinking this product will solve it for me, just like taking a magic pill. But that wasn't a real solution. The real solution was exposing my feet to organic growth and just organic exposure in what way whatsoever, doesn't matter. And so yeah, and just putting in the energy into trying to stretch my fingers and almost doing yoga, but with my feet basically, and getting the blood flow in there, and that started to change things. And then as soon as I started to make my own shoes for the first time, which I got some leather from someone for a birthday once, and yeah, I made a pair of shoes like these, and then I started wearing those a bit more, and that really started to help a lot. I would stop twisting my ankle as much. I would get warmer feet, and just all around my knee pains were just improving and improving the more and more I would be using these shoes. But again, it wasn't just the shoes. The shoes facilitate the growth. It's about putting in the love and the energy into our own body and exploring our own body in these unexplored territories, and particularly, funnily enough, ironically enough, you could say, our foundation, our feet, which is the least explored. And I feel like for me that was such an eye opener. It solved my knee pains, solved my back pains. I don't get cold feet anymore. I don't roll my ankles anymore, and walk the hills in these. I can put on frozen socks in the morning in the winter. It doesn't really bother me too much. And it's been about
Wow.
3 or 4 years now since I've been doing that.
That's amazing. And listen, can you teach? So, how much would it cost you to make a pair of these shoes?
If I
Just
would make
rough.
them, if I would make them somewhat nice, then again it would be one of those things where it would take me such an amount of time that, like you said, it wouldn't be worth people paying for it themselves. Really, they could,
Yeah.
but it would be around 200 something pounds. However, I could very much recommend people though to get some leather and try it out themselves. It's that simple. I can give a workshop on this as well, maybe at Heal Scotland. It's possible. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's that simple
I
design.
think that'd be another great idea.
And for anyone who's watching
Maybe
right
not
now who
this
might be
festival,
interested,
but certainly we're going to do one in Strontian in October, so we could plan it a bit better. I think that would be really interesting workshop to do.
yeah,
Yeah, let's do it. So, well, anyway, you're going to be coming to Tarbert, and I take it you're going to be there all weekend, are you?
yeah, definitely will be. And if you need
People
a
will
hand
get
with
the
anything,
chance.
you
Uh-huh. Yeah, don't worry, I'll call on you. And people will be able to meet you. To say you're fairly easy to recognise, and yeah, and they can talk to you about all the things that you can do. When my Indian friend had his birthday over here, two men came and did that demonstration that you did with Froome. That was part of the entertainment. So that I think that would be a really good idea, at parties, and then you can dress
yeah,
people, and I think that's another really nice thing to do. So listen, I'll let you go. It's getting dark here in Hailstones, and have a great weekend, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.
yes, thank you. See you soon.
Thanks so much.
Bye bye.
See you soon. Ciao, ciao.